All right, happy Friday, you guys and girls out there. Hope you all are doing well. It is Friday. Hope your weekend, you got some great plans. All right, let's jump into this, and then we'll jump into Tracy Schuchart's information. China is depleting its oil stockpiles in a potential sign Beijing is looking to boost the economy with a surge in fuel exports. What does this mean? We're going to talk about that at the end, especially with U.S. depleting strategic reserve. So stay tuned for that. Right now, we're going to go over Tracy Schuchart. She is the queen of crude. Her Energy and Minerals Weekly. The EU gathers this week on September 9th to discuss a variety of mechanisms to lower energy prices. Europe fails to find a solution to curb soaring energy prices. European government officials met in Brussels on Friday to discuss how they cope with a shortage of energy that's sending prices sky high. Ever since Russia invaded Ukraine, they failed to agree on any concrete solutions for now. Proposals for a price cap need more work. Leaders said at a press conference the ministers called on the European Commission, the European Union's executive arm, to come up with more ideas. There are 27 states with completely different energy mixes, with completely different geographical positions, said Roberto Cogliani, Italy's Minister for Ecological Transition. Unfortunately, it's very difficult to find the silver bullet, the solution that pleases everyone quickly, says Barros. So Europe is in a pinch right now for energy. In fact, I've heard rumors that they have an estimated 2 months of, maybe 3 months of energy, natural gas, particularly left to get them through this winter. We don't know yet if it's going to be a mild winter or a very harsh winter. If it is a mild winter, everyone is estimating they'll get through scathed, but they'll get through it. If it's a harsh winter, they're estimating people are going to die, right? Like when it is at zero, it is below freezing for a long period of time, you need a lot of energy in order to survive, to like keep your people warm, right? Germany has actually told people to start gathering wood for this winter. It's going to be so bad. So they met. They haven't found a conclusion to help figure a solution to this. But here's the thing: price caps. They're talking about that is something that they did in the U.S. in the 70s, and it didn't work. What happens if governments put in price caps to oil and gas or really anything? What happens is you get shortages then, even worse shortages, because oil and gas companies, again, every business sells at what the market will pay, and that is dictated by supply and demand, right? And so if a company has a price cap on it, what they're going to do is they're just going to do enough work to survive till the price caps are gone. They're not going to do more. So if they need to sell, 5,000 units a week, then they're not going to make 10,000. All right, they may make 5,500 just to make sure, but they're not. There's nothing more that they can gain by producing more, right? And so the production doesn't go. What you really need to lower pricing is higher production, because more supply, less demand equals prices falling down. But leaders just can't seem to get that. All right, EU eyes 33% levy on extra profits from fossil fuel companies. So many questions in that. What does extra profits, how do they define extra profits, right? And 33%, how in the world that's a lot, okay? That's about a double taxing if you're from the US, right? EU considers mandatory goal of 5% peak hours, power demand cut, okay? European Union is zeroing in on a plan to cap energy companies' profiles and channel cash to consumers. It steps closer to energy rationing in a bid to tame the crisis. They're going about this all wrong. They need to just open up their energy sources. In fact, Germany is now starting to nationalize its energy, and France is nationalizing its nuclear energy. What does that mean when you say nationalizing? Well, it means the government comes in and forces ownership, right? We see this in Venezuela with the oil and gas companies. They used to be some of the best in the world. They would produce the best crude. They had the best crude to pull out of the ground. They produced it well, and they just did a really, really good job. And then the communist dictators took over. They fired, imprisoned, or killed everybody that owned it, and they took it over and they gave it to their, cousins or whatever to make money and stuff like that. And now Venezuela is a laughingstock in comparison to what they used to be, right? Ask anybody in the oil business that's been there for 30 years or more, and they'll tell you, like, Venezuela was a powerhouse, and now it's just a house that needs power. Okay. Again, they're trying to cut the crisis. Their proposals are this: capping power generation revenues of renewable and nuclear companies at 180 euros per megawatt hour, a temporary levy on companies in oil, gas, coal, and refinery industries of at least 33% of their extra profits. Who defines extra profits? Based on pre-tax profits over the fiscal year 2022 that are more than 20% higher than the average of the last 3 years starting in 2019. Okay, so they're kind of defining it here. It's exceptional and temporary and up to the member states to apply. A target to cut overall consumption by 10% and a mandatory goal lowering demand during selected peak hours by 5%. Okay, I love her commentary. We're going to go straight through it. Russian gas price caps were taken off the table, which for now is a good thing, as Russia would have immediately stopped all flows to Europe. There are still flows through Ukraine, as well as Turkey, Hungary, Greece are still receiving gas and are on favorable terms. That said, the proposal for a 33% levy on oil, gas, and coal companies in the EU is a disaster. These companies simply will not produce more, like I said, which in turn will keep prices elevated and sometimes escalate them. A levy does nothing to increase supply, which is exactly what the EU needs right now. See, I didn't even read this beforehand. I'm just kind of going by it. But again, these truths are coming out like this is not the way to handle it. What you need to do is you need to, if anything, start to subsidize it, and that will bring out more people to do it and bring out more supply. Worse is a pre-tax levy. Europe already has extremely high taxes, and it's based on the fiscal year 2022 profits rather than the average of the 3 years starting from 2019. A reminder that oil companies lost money in 2021. So what you're doing is you're saying, hey, oh guys, this is self-explanatory. This is bad though. But basically, they're putting the bar at a losing pace anyway, to where oil and gas companies lost money. We're going to put the bar there and make them hurt. The thing they don't get is they're trying to hurt oil and gas companies, and in the reality is they're just going to hurt themselves. I mean, they need energy. There is a genuine need here, and they're feeling this, but they're going about it the completely wrong way. And we're going to get to why that's important for us later in this. Obviously, if this passes, European oil and gas sector equities will get hit hard as investors flee those equities for better returns in other sectors. It is good news for the United States and Canada, perhaps even Brazil. Europe seems headed into a dark place, literally and figuratively, at breakneck speed, one poor energy policy decision after another. Again, if you're in a country that you get to vote for your leaders, it matters. It matters, and they are showing that. Europe needs China's diesel if it does cut off Russia imports. If Europe is serious about ending all imports to Russian crude oil and refined fuels by the next year, the key to success lies in Asia, more specifically China. The EU agreed in May to end seaborne imports of Russian crude by December and cut refined products 2 months later as part of efforts to punish Moscow for its February 24th invasion of Ukraine. The problem is that there is not enough diesel in the global system to make up for the potential shortfall in Europe, which has so far been unable to end its reliance on imports from Russia. Commentary. There's a problem with sourcing from China. China is Russia's largest oil consumer by far. High chance this diesel is refined from Russian barrels, thereby basically negating any oil embargo. So what did you say? It's like, hey, China's buying Russia's oil anyway, so if you buy from China, your embargo doesn't matter. So in other words, it's kind of like saying, hey, we don't like Russia. We're not going to buy or sell from them. Cool. But China's okay with this. Okay, well, China and Russia are doing business together. China's buying Russian's crude and then just relabeling in barrels and sending it to you. You try to take a stance, and you built a fence and they walked right around it. If Europe does follow through with this oil and product embargo in December as planned, they should rather be looking to the United States. The U.S. does not import anything from Russia, which obviously would be very good for U.S. refiners. Keep this in mind. I'm sure that will be brought up before the December deadline. I'll be looking looking for Europe to start securing long-term contracts with U.S. refiners if they are smart, although history says they will wait until last minute. She gives some tickers to watch, VLO, MPC, PSX. This is not any financial advice on this channel or anything. I'm just kind of repeating what she says type thing. Here's a great chart of Russia's biggest oil consumers. China is about a third of the chart, right? I mean, literally, it looks like a 33% split. The second is Netherlands, then Germany, Korea, North Korea, I'm guessing. And then there's a mix of the rest of them. All right, the U.S., my homeland. The federal government releases fewest federal oil and gas lands since World War II. The federal government has released fewer acres of federal land for oil and gas drilling since Joe Biden has been president than it did during the first year and a half of any other administration since World War II. In other words, that's like a 70-year stretch, man. Nationwide, President Biden's Interior Department has leased less than 130,000 acres for drilling, which that is nothing. 130,000 acres, that is a drop in the bucket, you know. That's down 97% compared to the same point during the Trump administration. In North Dakota, about a tenth of mineral ownership is federal, and according to the Department of Mineral Resources, the moratorium could cost the state about $76 million in federal royalties by the time Biden's first term is up. So what the president is doing is going to affect mom and pops. It's going to affect the people of the U.S., not just indirectly with oil prices going up, but very directly with the fact that, hey, there's going to be $76 million not coming to North Dakota because of this, right? That's a good chunk of change. Her commentary. This actually should come across as no surprise given how extensively I've written about the U.S. anti-oil prices, but even as I was shocked at how small of a number it really is, given that the U.S. owns 160 million acres of federal lands, U.S. production numbers will never return to pre-COVID levels at this rate. Expect higher for long oil prices. Expect higher oil prices for longer is what she's saying. Yeah, so that right there, that last one, I love it. U.S. production numbers will never return to pre-COVID levels, but our consumption rate is. So that means oil and gas is going to go up and stay up for quite some time. And remember, energy is the economy. If the number one thing that has spawned and pushed more economies up throughout history is cheap and easy energy, right? So if you raise energy prices, it's going to flatten the economy. We have an oil problem. A decline in drilling across the Permian Basin suggests U.S. production forecasts are way too high. Remember what I said about supply and demand. And so the Permian Basin is a huge one. Permian Basin is in West Texas, right? Texas, so the U.S. is the number one consumer of energy. All right, we consume about 25% of the energy in the entire world, right? Last time I checked, but it is up there. We are the number one consumer, not by a little bit. It's not like we're just neck and neck. No, we are the number one consumer of energy in the world, and it is by a long shot. But we consume about 25% of the world's energy. Texas produces about 40% of the energy for the U.S. Okay, so think about that. 40% of 25%, right? If I do my math really quickly, right, that's about Texas alone. Texas alone produces about 10% of the energy that the world uses, all right? Take that to heart. Think about that. Texas produces 10% of the energy the world uses. The Permian Basin is the largest basin in Texas, right? It's like it's like you took the Gulf of Mexico and filled it with oil and put it in West Texas. I mean, it is the Middle East, as they say, of the U.S. Drilling for oil in West Texas is like drilling for water over a frozen lake. Just put the drill bit in and go down deep, and you got it. Okay. And she says a decline in drilling across the Permian Basin suggests U.S. production forecasts are way too high. What we're saying is we're thinking we're going to produce more in the future, and we're probably not. The number of Rigs drilling horizontal wells in the Permian has hit a 4-month low of 316, signaling a significant slowdown. Then the problem: U.S. oil output growth is going to disappoint both this year and into 2023. I've told you, I've said it so many times on this channel. I've told my friends and everything. Oil is going to be a heck of a lot steeper next year. Remember this when we finish, because Tracy's saying it from a totally different angle. I'm going to come in with some more information, but the U.S. is not producing as much as it used to. Again, the easiest, largest, like, risk-free area in the U.S. is not producing as much as it should. And again, because they're taking rigs down, like the number of rigs is at a 4-month low. Okay, wow. Okay, that's going to basically, it's going to shock forecasters. They're thinking, hey, we're going to start drilling more and drilling, we get more oil, and we're like, no, we're going to get less oil. And demand is already still rising, it's hitting pre-pandemic levels. All right, we're going to go on. If the drop-off shows were in the past, shows were past the peak of the current cycle, the high point this summer, 331 Permian rigs back in July, was much lower than previous peaks. 443 rigs in 2019, 349 in 2014. The vast shale basin is the engine of America's oil industry, pumping 4.6 million barrels a day, more than the most OPEC countries. The Permian has almost single-handedly boosted U.S. oil production this year, with output topping 4.2 million barrels a day reached in March 2020, before COVID brought drilling to a standstill. Other shale basins, such as the Bakken in North Dakota, haven't yet returned to pre-pandemic levels of activity, and output from the country's legacy or non-shale wells is below pre-COVID levels. Her commentary: we have a huge problem in the Permian Basin slowing down. The U.S. government continues to demonize, the U.S. government continues to demonize the oil industry, and in turn, U.S. shale companies are focusing on returning cash to shareholders rather than spending it on new wells. Okay, inflation is still running 15-20% for costs of materials such as drill pipe. Again, inflation affects oil and gas companies too. Labor shortages in the industry are still running rampant. All of these, all these things point to oil prices being higher for longer. I still like the mid to small cap shale companies over the long term versus the majors. All right, again, another reason why oil will be higher for longer. It's a good question to ask you. Where do you think gas prices are going to be next year? If you fast forward past Christmas into, the spring and March and into the summer, where do you think they're going to be? Do you think they're going to go down or what? I mean, they're going down right now, and we'll get into why. And we'll get into why. You better buckle up, Buttercup, because it's going to be bad next year. And these are just some of the issues that start to point to it. But in all of this, if this is starting to worry you, contact me. I put my information at the bottom, but contact me. I have a way out for investing in oil and gas mineral rights that's absolutely amazing. It's completely passive, inflation protected, recession resistant. So it's good stuff. But that's why I'm not really worried about this. I do these presentations, I walk you through this, I give my commentary, and I'm like, hey, I'm not worried about it at all, because if oil and gas flies up, it means I profit more, right? Not wanting to put I'm sad that it's going to really hurt others and businesses, but I'm out there trying to promote the words of, hey, this is a way of escape to it, because whether we like it or not, this is going to happen. Our governments have created a way for this to happen. They're going to do it, and especially after the midterm elections and elections in China, in the U.S., and elections in China for the presidency. After all that is said and done, the gloves are coming off, and it's gonna hurt. They will hurt both of their countries and the world with how much oil and gas will go up. All right, so this last one is pretty good. It talks about EVs and the ESG movement a little bit. She says charts of interest this week. Houston, we have a metal shortage problem. If we are to stay the course of energy transition, we're going to need a lot more of these metals. EVs require a huge amount of copper because copper is so heavy, as well as the batteries. EV automakers use as much aluminum as possible in order to make the car lighter and therefore more efficient, more miles to fuel it for a full charge. The new generation solar panels also contain twice the amount of aluminum as the older generations. Wind turbines use a huge amount of these metals. So you get copper, aluminum, zinc, nickel. They're going down. Like, we aren't producing enough, right? And the inventories are going down. They're starting to get depleted. We need new mines. The biggest thing about ESG, I'll give you the cliff notes, is it's great. Everybody I know wants to be on board, but the people who look behind the curtain, right, and they see the wizard of Oz, they realize that, hey, we don't have the raw materials to do this with. We don't have the copper, the zinc, the nickel, the all of these things that are needed in order to create EVs and make an EV nation. We don't have enough. And to make a mine, to set it up, it's not something we can order on Amazon. That takes about 10 years and about $2 billion or more, okay? We don't have that set up, and we're not trying to set it up. None of that, but we need oil and gas to set that up. That is our main source of energy. Unless we're going to go all steampunk on people, which we're not. Right now, oil and gas is the only way that we can go because we don't have the infrastructure set up for anything else. Bottom line. Once we do, then yeah, let's take off oil and gas and start to wean off oil and gas, but we don't have the raw resources, so it's not going to happen, right? Or the best way I've heard it said is we'll know the time of oil and gas is over when EVs, wind turbines, when the ESG movement can repair itself with the ESG movement. What does that mean? In other words, if my Tesla breaks, right, my electronic car breaks, I can get it hauled to the mechanic. The mechanic, using the lights, the socket wrenches, everything, uses the only fuel source he has is created from wind, solar, nuclear stuff like that, the stuff that is ESG approved, to fix my electric car, and then I can drive it back, right? In other words, if a wind turbine goes down, how are you going to fix it? Are you going to use your Tesla to go out there? Are you going to use? Do we have Tesla cranes that we can use? No, all these things run on oil and gas because that's what we've had for the last 100 years, right? And it's taken us very, very far as a civilization. And so, all right, we're going to move on to the next one. Bam. Let's go back to the beginning. China is depleting its oil stockpiles in a potential sign Beijing is looking to boost the economy with a surge of fuel exports. So basically, China is going into its oil and gas bank account in order to boost the economy. Why are they doing that? Because she is up for re-election this year. All right. At the same time, China is deleting its stockpiles of oil and gas. The U.S. is too. We've been doing it for the last 6 months. Biden started to deplete our strategic petroleum reserve at 1 million a day. Then he bumped up to 2 million a day. The headline from Bloomberg says the U.S. is depleting its strategic petroleum reserve faster than it looks. So our petroleum reserve, if you look at this chart, this is what is estimated to be by in October. It went from, let's see here, Biden started early this year. He signed it in April, right? So we'll just take it from 6/1 type thing. So we had about 630 to 650 million barrels beginning of this year. By October, it's estimated we'll have 359 million. So we'll just say 360 million. That is almost 50% to the T of what we had. Again, he's got to fill this up, right? This was created for a wartime savings account for oil and gas, right? They should fill theirs up. I don't know their laws. I don't know if they're going to be forced to, but Biden's going to be forced to fill this back up. You throw all this together with what we read with Tracy's shoe chart, that oil is going to be higher next year and for longer. And not only do you get 2 million barrels coming off the market per day, which is going to boost prices up, and you have China taking their oil off the market per day, which is really kind of Russian oil, let's be honest, that's taken off the market, right? And you have oil prices currently, with all of that, it just broke 80 on the downward side, so it's at 78 and change, right? That is them artificially pushing it down. So right now, that is a low oil price, right? We probably won't see that price for another 4 years or something like that. I don't know. But my point is this: they're depleting the savings account. They're going to have to refill it back up. Now, instead of, and we'll just take the U.S. We're not going to count China. Instead of 2 million barrels being put on the market, you take that off the market. So the market has 2 million barrels left to supply. And then you factor in that he's probably going to put 1 million or 2 barrels back into the reserve per day. So now you have a difference of 3 to 4 million barrels as opposed to just 2, right? My point is this: right now, oil and gas is low. This is honestly $78 a gallon or $78 a barrel is actually high. It's kind of that's beginning of the high side. But right now it is factually low because they're suppressing it so much. And when all this suppression, artificial suppression, stops, it's going to slingshot up. I mean, we're going to see, we'll probably see $100 a barrel before Christmas type thing, or before the end of the year. Next year, I'm guessing we're going to see 125 pretty steadily, and that's not counting if China goes to war with Taiwan. And then the U.S. is pulled into it, right? We were not even counting. If that happens, I'm going to see oil at 150 easily type thing. It's going to go off the charts. So don't be a victim to others' manipulation of the markets. Invest in oil, invest in gas, find a way to get around this. Buy now while, I'm not giving financial advice. I'm just saying I would buy now. I'm looking to buy oil and gas, not only a few stocks, but also heavily invest in minerals right now, because it's going to come up like a slingshot next year. It's going to be bad, and people will suffer. I don't want you to be the ones that suffer. Thanks for watching. I appreciate you watching, taking the time for this. Just viewing the channel, giving it a like and subscribe if you want. But really, the biggest thing is share it with some friends, man. I want them to be in the know as well, and deeply in the know, because this is going to be something that will affect you and your family directly, and I don't want you to get hurt by it. I'd rather you profit out of it, right? There will be some that are going to be hurt. Yeah, that is what happens when the government makes bad decisions. Europe is going to see that really, really clearly this winter. I don't want you to be hurt by that, right? And the more you put in now, the more you're going to get out. And talking about getting out, we're going to be done with this. Hope you enjoy your weekend. Again, I'm just here for you. I don't want to be hurt. I'm going to be safe and secure. I'm not worried about it, but I want to make sure that you and your families are okay. With that, I'm out.